Hey everyone, welcome to my tutorial. So for today, we're making this saddle. Not only a saddle, but it's the Impact Naomi saddle. We use it because it has a special elastic in the back that allows it to stretch and for it to be easily replaced. Please check later on my video. Just subscribe or like this video to come back to it later because I will be making more patterns for more saddles. So if you don't have this one, just stick around. At some point, I'll make a tutorial for that saddle. So what you're going to need today is the pattern. If you came to this video without the pattern, I'm genuinely impressed. But go ahead and grab that pattern from Etsy. It's only a couple bucks. It'll show you how to make this exact seat right here. A sewing machine, tape, single-sided works, but I prefer double-sided, but it's whatever you have on hand. An X-Acto knife for cutting, pins for the design, scissors, and some elastic. But most importantly, you're going to need some vinyl. But if you don't want to use vinyl, you could use whatever you have on hand. It may change the durability of the seat. It may change the stretchiness, but I really want to try to use leather one day. So if any of you guys decide to make one that's made of leather, please post the link or just tell me where to find it in the description because I'd love to see it. Okay, so let's start. So today, the vinyl wrap I'm going to make is going to be a gray and white one. It kind of complements the unicycle I have now. I'll post that right here. But yeah, let's get started. Okay, so step one. Once you have the pattern, there should be 5 parts: a saddle, a left, right, a back, and a front. You're going to cut them out. What I prefer to do is place them on a bigger sheet of paper when you print them, just so that the dimensions are right. On the side of the pattern, this is very, very important. On the side of the pattern, there's inches and centimeters. Make sure when you print them, the dimensions match exactly. 3 inches and 7 centimeters on the pattern. So make sure you grab a ruler and make sure they're exactly 3 inches or exactly 7 centimeters. If there's any discrepancy, start over, try again, because you want this to be perfect. You don't want to have any issues. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're gonna start with cutting the pattern. This is probably one of the simplest steps out there. So we're gonna start by placing tape on the back of the design once you printed it out. I laminated mine because I used them multiple times. But if you're only doing this once or twice, maybe just laminate the parts where you're gonna put sticky on so they don't rip. So we're gonna cut all the way around the edge of this pattern. It's important to cut that all around the edge with a little bit of room, just so if you have any mistakes cutting, it doesn't break into the pattern. Make sure you cut around the largest edge. The inside edge must stay, but make sure you cut the biggest edge out. So I'll be back once I cut out all my patterns. Before we start sewing, it's important to look at your pattern and see where the notches are. Mine just have red little dots, but yours should have lines on them. These are important to know where to start pinning down your seat. So, for example, on this saddle, on the saddle piece, you see there's 2 little dots on the sides. This is where you're going to line up the right and left. So before removing your pattern from the vinyl, see the dots where you have the dots? Make sure you put on the back right where that dot is. So the line's here for me. I'm going to put right behind it a line here, right behind here, a line here, and then one in the back, on the front, and then one over here. This is so you know where to place the design. And make sure when you're making these dots, you don't put it on the actual vinyl, but on the back side where it could be soft or have like a materially feel. You'll know the difference because the vinyl feels more like leather than this other side feels more like cotton. Oh, and a quick tip, after you start marking off the back sides of the design, make sure you mark off the edges where it's sharp for the left and right panel. So as we can see right here, we're going to have a dot. So I'm going to look at it. I see, okay, there's a dot right here. So on the back side, I'm going to flip it over and make that dot mark. So on the right, it's right here. So that's like right about here. Cool. So now that we have our indications on the pattern, on the back side of the pattern, we're going to start pinning it down. So with our vinyl facing up, we're going to use our left side and place it on the left side of that saddle, and flip the vinyl downward so you see the material on the back. This is the vinyl, this is the material. We're going to have it facing this side up. So we're going to align the dot that we just made with the dot on the back. We're going to carefully match them up, and that's where we're going to start pinning. So it's important when pinning to try to leave as little space in between as possible. So for example, here, if it was spaced out like that, we don't want to pin it, but we do want them pressed down together. Notice once I've started pinning, the left side panel starts to raise a little bit. You can see it from this end. It's raising up. That's what you want, because when you set it down, it's going to be flipped over, and it's going to give it a little puffy side to it. So because I don't have very many pins, I just pin down one side and then I'll do the other. But you're more than welcome to do both the left and the right side. It's going to be the exact same way you did this left side. When sewing, match this up directly with the 5/8, which is right here. And you'll also know when you slowly bring your needle down, it will touch right on that red dot. And on the left side, it's going to have the 5/8 allowance, so right over here. Both sides are done on the sewing. They look pretty good. This is what it looks like on the back side. This is what it looks like on the front. So we're going to do the same thing for the front and back. We're going to line that red dot that we made on the pattern. So right here and right here. The biggest side is going to be the back, and the smaller one is going to be the front. There's the two little dots. There they are. And we're going to pin it down. So now it's critical that we align all of this side with the back. So what we're going to do is every pin or two, we're going to pin where it's even, whether you don't see any extra of each side. And you're going to pin all around until we get to this part right here. So it's going to be lifted up, and I'll show you how that looks. Okay, so I have the back side pinned down currently, and it's going to look something like this. Before we start sewing, I want to bring to your attention, there's going to be a gap in between this panel and the sewing. So on this side, it's going to be a gap on this end over here. There's going to be a gap in between here. That's okay. We don't want to sew all the way to the ends, but we do want to leave probably about a third to half an inch of space in between the two. All right, so I've sewn it in. On this side, it looks like this. There is, if you can notice, there's a gap in between these two, and there's a gap on this side. On this side, it's not as clear because it's white on white, but I sewed all along the lines, and I left that gap. So see, there's a gap in between these two, and there's a gap in between these two. That's where we want it. All right, so the same way we pin down the other ends, we're going to pin down the left panel and the right panel to the back side. This is why leaving up until that red dot sewn, this gap, is important, because what we're going to do is we're going to pin these together along the edges. I'm going to show you this part because it's super important you don't mess up, because it can be a little tricky. I'm going to show you one of my sides being pinned down because this part can be a little tricky. So what we're going to do is we're going to pin like we're pinning normally, but because there's such a variation, pin like we are pinning normally, but because there's such a huge variation in these two, we have to be super careful in how we pin it. So what we're going to do is bring the backside towards this panel over here. We're going to bend it until these two match up. So right here, it looks like they're matching where there's no space in between, like right there. So we're going to put a pin in, and we're going to go to the next one, and it looks like it's better right here where there's not very much space in between these. One's not higher than the other. And we're going to keep going down the line. Cool. All right, so I've pinned it down. I have both my sides pinned down and ready. What we're going to do now is sew these sides on. At some points here at the top, it's going to be easy to do 5/8 inch, but as we get narrower and narrower to the ends, it's going to be really hard to get that seam allowance. So what we're going to do is, as once we get down towards the bottom, we're just going to narrow it in. So it's not going to be 5/8 of an inch of seam allowance at the end, but at the top it will be. When sewing, make sure to pull this back side inwards so that it's not in the way and doesn't get sewn on, because if you do that, you're going to have to get your X-Acto knife, which I have it here for mistakes, and cut through the threads and redo it. I already started, I forgot to record, but this is what it looks like. This side is curved up while I'm sewing, and that's A-okay. Probably what you want. So we're going to keep this at the 6/5/8 inch as far as I can go. We got to be very mindful of the back side down here. That like I said, it's flipped. This side's flipped to the other way, and that we don't run into any other material. It should just be this panel right here that we're sewing down. No. See what that looks like. All right, that's a pretty good sew. So as we see, we got right to that red dot, and it looks pretty good. We're gonna flip this panel right here out of the way so that we could sew really well. So in the first part, we're not gonna be able to sew 5/8 of an inch, and that's okay. So I just took out all my pins. I got really excited. I love doing this because it's new to me, but it's also so fun to look at as you progress. There is this gap, which we're going to fix later, and there's a gap over here we're going to fix later, but for now, this looks pretty good. So same thing we did for the front side, where we made that mark on the back side of both our saddle and our front panel. We're going to align those two together. So here's my dot up here. Here's my dot on the panel here. So we're going to line those up. So this is the exact same process as we did for the back one. I'm not going to show it because it's a waste of time. But if you want to see what you did before, just do the same thing as you did for the back side. Okay, so this may be a little overkill, but before I sewed down the side, I pinned everything out and aligned it so that it would fit perfectly with these wings up here and the back side. This is why you need an X-Acto knife. In my sewing, I flip it around. It's got this ugly indent. You may like it, but I don't. And so what I'm gonna do is just cut the stitches. I normally go from the back side and just pull them out like that. There we go, it's out. And now I can start over and do that part over again. This is the moment of truth to see what it looks like so far. So it's gonna look something like this. You see there's gaps here, 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 and here. All right, so here we go. I flipped it back inside out. And now that we have this sewn together, it looks clean. We're gonna go back where these gaps are on 1, 2, 3, and 4 and sew them in. The smart way to do this is, see, like for example, this is all loose up here. We're gonna push it, we're gonna tuck it in and fold it over. This is the top part, and fold it over so that it folds down. And we're gonna sew around it. So you saw I tucked it in, sew it over. So let's do this side. All right, so be careful not to sew any of this side while you're sewing it together. Just make sure you just sew along the edge and you should be good. Okay, so boom, here it is without all of the holes. They're sealed now. And hopefully yours looks just as good. What we're gonna do now is install some elastic so that it'll wrap around the saddle. So what I'm gonna do is start from the back. I'm gonna sew in a drawstring tunnel. And how we do this is I fold it over and I keep it about 1/2 inch in length, or 1/2 inch in width, and I put it into the sewing machine, and we're gonna do this all the way through. Right now I have my sewing at 3.5. What I'm gonna do is move it to its utmost left position. So at 0, I move that 3.5 to the left. For the spots where they change, I sew down some, and then I'm going to take a break and then resume right here. gonna be a little gap, and that's even better because when we thread this elastic through, we need some gaps so we can poke it out and pull the rest of it through. So I cleaned it up, it looks all right, and now we're gonna sew it tight. So what we're gonna do for this process is find the rear of the saddle. So this is the saddle, this is the rear. We're gonna flip it over. We're gonna get a hole punching tool or an X-Acto knife, and we're gonna poke a hole somewhere right at the back, elastic through. So this is how I do it. I'm going to get about maybe 2 or 3 inches, maybe 4 inches of it on this side, and I'm gonna pull on it so that's stretched while it's already in there. And what I'm gonna do now is put it through the hole. So let's see if it goes in. So my way is push, hold, and pull. Push, hold, push, hold, push, push, push. And as you see, it's going through. Push. Sometimes it'll get stuck because as you see, there's all this lumping, but it should go through. We made a little space for it. It just needs to do a little convincing. It looks like it's not going to be able to go through. So in situations like this, we can do one of 2 things. We can cut a big hole and cut it out, which I'm going to do, or we can cut 2 little divots and pass it through. So what I'm going to do is the best, I believe is the best option. It's frustrating because you have to get this thread through these parts like right here, and when you sew it, it leaves very little room for it to pass through. So it popped out and it looks like this. What we're gonna do is pull on it so that comes through. So I'm almost done. I'm about 2 or 3 pushes away from getting it through the hole again. Oh, man. And now comes the fun part. After I get it out this hole, here it is. Cool. There we go, got it out. There it is, the saddle. And now comes the fun part, fitting it on your unicycle saddle. I'm kind of a crazy person and I use power tools to unscrew these things, but you shouldn't do that. Just get a regular hex screw, unscrew the 4 little bolts, or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take that off. And imagine you just took all 4 bolts off here. And imagine this is your old saddle. This is what it's gonna look like, kind of. And what you're gonna do is unwrap this right here, not even unwrap it, just pull it out for the old one, loosen it up, and pull it off. All right, that's our old saddle. That's what the thing looks like uncovered. And here's our new saddle. All right, so the way I do it is I like to put the back end on first, so this side. You can tell the back from the wider side up here. So I'm gonna put this wider side on first. See, it's on, it's on. Yep, okay. Now I'm gonna put the front side on. What I'm doing is I'm pulling up and wrapping it around. Pulling up and wrapping around. Pulling up, wrapping. This process is gonna get it a little looser, and there you go. That's one side. Pull up, wrap around, pull up, wrap around, pull up, wrap around. Okay, there we go. And now it's on. What we're gonna do is give it a nice little tug. Okay. And now what I like to do, instead of tying it in a knot, because that causes problems later down the road, is I wrap like I'm about to tie a knot, twist it, and grab this and pull it through. It's like like you're tying a shoe. So it's not permanent, but it is pretty tight. Oh, it's permanent, but it's not gonna be impossible to pull off at the end. So I'm gonna cut this extra cord, and that's it. I'm gonna show you what it looks like on my unicycle. I'm pretty happy about this because of what my unicycle looks like. Now there is some imperfections here, but this can easily get tugged out through that process of pulling and slapping it over. So yeah, that's the video. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit a like and maybe even subscribe. I do post unicycle content weekly You could also go to my Etsy shop at Go Unicycle and go check out these saddles. Maybe even buy the pattern if you just watch this video without buying the pattern. But yeah, that's been it. Have a good day and happy unicycling. So here's a look of my unicycle saddle on my unicycle. The gray matches with the gray up here, and the white is kind of matching with the silver and these silver rims and the silver mat adapters. But yeah, I think it looks really good.